Peace and love. Greetings to my people. This is John the Nubian Winner. You know what I'm saying? Here to build before y'all. You know what I'm saying? And just communicate, you know what I'm saying, with y'all regarding eye-opening information. You know what I'm saying? That serve as wake-up knowledge. For real, though. Pretty much that's the nature of the transmissions that I put together, you know, for entertainment and educational purposes. You know what I'm saying? You know what? I was doing some reflecting as a result of seeing something, you know what I'm saying, that seems to just be, it never ceases to amaze me, right? Now, in this life, you know what I'm saying, every day we have to make sure that we are doing the right thing so we don't end up getting caught up, you know, in bad situations. You know what I'm saying? So we try to stay clear, you know what I'm saying, of the negativity, you know what I'm saying, that seems to be prevalent out in the world or in society at large. You know what I'm saying? And we're doing the best we can, you know what I'm saying, to take care of our daily business, to secure our means of sustenance. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? In light of, like, staying out the way, so to speak, right? Where we can communicate with like minds, such as like what we doing right now. You know, we, you know, lend that ear, you know what I'm saying, to worthwhile conversation that actually makes sense. You know what I'm saying, of like certain just realities of life, right? Now, that's what I want to do here. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to make it make sense in terms of like, where are we at? And as a people, as black people in particular, right? Where are we going? Where are we headed? Or in light of the world, where is the world going? Where is the world headed? Or in light of here, you know what I'm saying, in the United States of America, dealing with the new presidential administration that's in office right now. Where is the country headed? Where are we going? You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the popular, when it comes to the popular topics, you know what I'm saying, dealing with like the wellness plans and things of this particular nature. And plans of prosperity, plans of healing, being healed, you know what I'm saying, of sorrow, diseases, sickness, you know what I'm saying, or environments that don't stimulate growth and development and progressiveness. Now, mind you, recently there's been controversial conversations going on dealing with executive orders that the president, Donald Trump, you know what I'm saying, called himself trying to get passed through Congress for certain executive orders to have standing in law. Now, this executive orders dealing with the negative effects of the DEI civil rights gains that was gained through civil rights leaders, so to speak, pretty much was a good thing as far as our people being granted access to prestigious governmental work positions or positions of work in a society dealing with the internal mechanisms of government, right? To where certain progresses have been made with our people to the point where it seems to threaten other racial groups regarding us getting ahead politically. Now, mind you, we know that we are dealing with us as a people in terms of like how we coexist with everybody else or every other racial group within the borders of the United States of America, right? As people, you know what I'm saying? You know, we are in a melting pot, right? To where it appears, why would the president want to propose certain executive orders, you know what I'm saying, that appears to attack progressive accomplishments by Black America? In other words, to set Black America back. Now, mind you, regarding the voting process that Blacks participate in, you know what I'm saying, regarding voting people in office to meet the needs of us as a people so we can be secure in our human rights and things of this particular nature, right? But yet, regarding us being an integrated people, integrated into a system that appears to not have been built by us. Now, mind you, regarding the White House or the settlement of the English white males government here in the United States, right? I want to connect some dots here where we're just trying to make sense, you know what I'm saying, of what's going on and why do it seem like drama mongers, warmongers, and mind manipulator triggers, you know what I'm saying, certain emotional reactions in us as a people to try to make us react in certain ways that will be pretty much counterproductive to our freedom accomplishments. Now, listen to where this is going. Now, mind you, in a situation where one of the quotes by Martin Luther King, where it was a certain realization by him, you know what I'm saying, like here in America, after all of the eloquent speech, you know what I'm saying, that he was articulating to appeal to the intelligence of the American people beyond the color lines, like nature, which knows no color lines, right? But yet in the minds of certain racial groups, their mind is conditioned regarding the color lines to where the racism that's taking place, you know what I'm saying, in the face of people making efforts to better race relations and to better improve our experiences in this melting pot as one nation, right? It's been scientific talks regarding sociology that America is an experiment. Now, if America is an experiment, right, where the public school systems don't properly educate the children through, from a young age, going on with the forwardness into their adult age, being responsible adults to when functioning as adults in a society of thinkers who have responsibilities in organizations, institutions, corporations, enterprises, business sectors, law sectors, sectors of social controls, being mature enough to work those positions to maintain the civilized aspects of society rooted in knowledgeable laws that secures the well-being and rights of the citizens of that society. Now, it appears that certain people in positions of authority or diplomatic positions don't have the temperament to spiritually deal with people on a level to where they having positive impacts on the souls of the people and in the souls of the people in the environment in a healthy way, because a lot of people reacting with popular statements or statements that have become so popular to the point where these popular statements show the sentiments of a lot of people, and the society is thinking alike when it comes to them being dissatisfied with how the leaders in position of authority in our society is not properly doing a good job when it comes to the people being satisfied from the people who they voted in office to represent them on to represent us in a good way like we expect them to do. But yet they renege on us and in return give us bad news, you know what I'm saying, from certain things that they are doing to show they disloyalty to their voter base that voted them in the office in the first place, which turns out to be a slap in the face to the people that voted them in office, showing them like, yeah, I was just being a soothsayer. You know what I'm saying? Just tickling your ears, telling you what you wanted to hear. Only for me to abandon you and appease the $1 billion people that I'm trying to please and appease to in this opportunity, you know what I'm saying, to make certain moves around these money people in these positions of power. You know what I'm saying? Without staying true to the people who was the real power now, who voted them in office, you know what I'm saying, to make good on their campaign proposals and things of this particular nature, only for us to run into more and more stupid, foolish, silly, small-minded, irresponsible conflicts, to the point where it's like all we seeing is conflict after conflict after conflict with political differences. You know what I'm saying? When people is, you know, been lied to again, dealing with these politicians, you know what I'm saying, who engage in politics. You know what I'm saying? Now, for instance, where are we going as a result of these kind of relationships with these people You know what I'm saying? Who we supposed to have a political connection with. You know what I'm saying? Securing the principles of security regarding the social security of the American people, right? But yet we see a lot of scams going on where certain forces is intending to rob you. You know what I'm saying? Of what's just due you or keep you in the dark about certain entitlements that these shadow workers exploit on a daily basis while the people struggling, just getting by on a daily basis. But yet these particular circles hoarding in all the money opportunity through money monopolies, through the greed that's deep rooted in their spirits, which turns out to be unclean spirits. When these people are reflections, you know what I'm saying, that they are of the evil one's minions. Now, mind you, us as Nubian people, black people, you know what I'm saying, who go by many names, you know what I'm saying, who has a monopoly on who you are? Do I describe myself to you in a way where, let me correct you on how you should see me and how you are to respect my name, right? Because a lot of people of all races who have been victims of colonialism have identity crisis if they haven't corrected their status to the point where they operate in a way where they operating as a reflection of who they really are. So they can't get taken advantage of by certain forces that love exploiting people based on what they don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, right? We have Brother Noble Drew Ali, right? Who came to help set the record straight on us getting right with our true national names and nationality. You know what I'm saying? Connected to our ways of our ancient forefathers and ancient foremothers. Now, it's this brother that wrote this book, right? Regarding Noble Drew Ali, The Exhuming of a Nation, right? The Exhuming of a Nation, right? To help us furnish our awareness to where we would have an understanding, understanding, overstanding, and outerstanding of certain intricate details of our real history, in addition to how did we get into this deep mess of a spell that has been cast on our people for us to have a state of amnesia to where we don't know who we are. Then you had the works of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? Who was to appeal to us to with wake up knowledge, to open our eyes to the reality that we are gods. And there's people amongst us on the planet that the Bible and the book of Leviticus talk about as the seed of the devil, who has a physical description to be identified as devils. In addition to the works of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the master teacher, right? Panabab Yanun, right? Panabab Yanun, right? who come to set the record straight for us to be on the page of right knowledge, which is correct information, right? Now, in light of having an awareness of the games that people play and having an awareness of the agendas of certain racial groups politically on the planet, that is a reflection on a level, say for instance, the regarding the United Nations of the planet Earth, right? Within this framework, look at the mind games being played where people grappling for success, for the well-being of their people in all areas of people activity, dealing with health issues, science issues, the issues of war, military, psychology, sociology, philosophy, sex is dealing with the healthy relationships between men and women, because the daily mental health concerns, what I'm saying, of humanity is of primary importance. Yet, there are forces in positions of power that feed off of low vibration aspects of society and our environment, to where that's where they want people to stay stuck at, on certain low vibratory frequencies like reptilians. Now watch this particular line of reasoning. Now, remember when I had mentioned earlier about Dr. Martin Luther King, when he made this particular statement, was it true? You be the judge. Did it make sense? You be the judge. Because it just might be true, because it's a shame how the United States of America has a certain, regarding the racial treatment report card. You know what I'm saying? How do you grade the United States of America in its treatment in terms of America's fair dealing with the people who make up the American people of this society, of this country, right? On this continent, regarding the United States of America, regarding the relationships and treatment of its people from the people who are in power, in seats of power in government, who consider themselves Democrats, Republicans, when we know that there's a such thing as lobbyists, right, who compete with money to get certain political figures attention, right, and buy them particular political leaders with money to represent a certain agenda for, regarding the private interests of the money people, other than the American people, who really is the government that's supposed to be ruled through us, the people, where they call it the consent of the governed, through we the people, through a voting process that reflect the will of the people. But yet when these certain figures get in office, they play games with our mind. The American people want this. You know how they say, the American people want that, or the American people want this. As if what they saying is a reflection of the will of the people, who voted them in office, where they are to do the will of the people through the Constitution, through our constitutional protections, right? But watch how this go deeper, where we can see elements of trick knowledge being played on. Do people really care about us out here? You know what I'm saying? When it comes to politics, you know what I'm saying? That's connected with politics and scams, where we see scamdemics out here like a pandemic, which is connected with plandemics. You know what I'm saying? Like certain proverbial wise men were saying, if certain things is going on in politics, right, you better believe it was planned that way. So here we are. You know, you have these figures called the unseen hand. People we don't see who was responsible for the influences. You know what I'm saying? That we see going on when it comes to influencing ultimately what our elected officials do, because they not the real power anyway. There's certain people behind the scenes that has so much influential money to where they get their way. You know what I'm saying? When we be thinking things out to going our way, but yet society seems to just keep moving along. The business of the world seems to just keep moving along day by day. So as a person, you know what I'm saying? So say for instance, us being individuals who is responsible for our own internal cultivation and mental health and things of this particular nature, in terms of like, we're responsible for taking care of ourselves. That don't mean that we are to be ignorant to the ways of the world. Well, we don't know how to put two and two together and be like, oh, okay, I see what's going on with this. Or I see what's going on with that, right? Because in this spiritual war, this is indeed a spiritual war of trickery and deception and backstabbing. You know what I'm saying? You just got to be on your guard, you know what I'm saying, to make sure you are guarded against the evils. Because this is indeed evil, what these entities is doing out here. This is crazy and it don't make no sense. But guess what? We got to know how to maneuver, you know what I'm saying, and stay spiritually protected and stay separated from the unclean things of the world out here. That's not right. Now, mind you, there is a reality, right? Let's talk about reality. Now, for instance, you know what? I want to start right here first, right? Because as a result of the falsification of our consciousness, people count on us to be twisted in the head, where we don't have certain knowledge that render us powerful, because knowledge is power, right? So in a society that prides itself on education, why is there so much illiteracy going on in the society, where certain intelligent conversations is not taking place on a dominant level, to where, you know, certain people in political circles wouldn't dare be trying to pull off certain things that they trying to pull off in the face of well-educated voters and things of this particular nature. Now watch this. Watch this. Now watch this. Watch this. This is really interesting. So you would think we are moving forward, But yet, certain forces trying to take us backwards in time, you know what I'm saying? Which is a conspicuous act through executive orders that don't have no power right now anyway, because they haven't became law, right? But yet, you turn out to vote for these individuals, and then they manipulate your interests from them sounding good and turn the dream into a nightmare by abandoning you in a way where what they doing turn out to really, instead of help you, it ill affect you. That's why putting our trust in the Most High is the best of plans, because certain things that man do, you know what I'm saying, let the Most High be the truth and every man a liar. We can listen to certain reasoning coming from individuals, you know what I'm saying, when it actually makes sense what they talking about, where it is designed to have a positive effect on you, where it is to have you become edified from the worthwhile conscious knowledge that's being conveyed, like what I'm doing. This communication, this conversation is intended to have an edifying effect on your mind and lift your spirit in a positive direction, to where it's to leave you in a positive state of mind where you are empowered. You know what I'm saying? Not to feel stressed out about some negative news. You know what I'm saying? This is actually glad tidings that I'm spreading, right? Now, for instance, right, where I wanted to start at. Did you know, right? Did you know, right? Do you know what gave birth to capitalism in the first place? We're living in a capitalistic society here in America where it's about the money. Or we in a system where it's like everything has a price. Anyone can be bought, or for the right price, you can be bought, or for or everything is for sale here in America, to where the real roots of capitalism has its foundation in slavery. Now, let's look at the details of this reading material that give you a clear, concise glimpse into the real meaning of capitalism and where it came from, for educational purposes, right? Regarding this source of information, right? The international commercialization of black slavery changed the world. Now watch this. This had an impact on the whole world, black peoples, or what's considered foundational black Americans, or indigenous blacks of America, or Native American blacks of the United States of America, right? That who was the first people on this continent before people started immigrating here. We was already here. But still, watch this line of reasoning, right? Slavery gave birth to capitalism. Look, the international commercialization of black slavery change the world and its economic concepts. Now, the real essence of capitalism is to make a profit from cheap labor. Now you wonder why. Like, when people work certain jobs from putting in all them hours and get a check in return that don't equate, the funds don't equate the salary or the what you call it, the term, like when you compensate, you get compensated for your energy. The money you get compensated with from your energy of the work that you did. You know what I'm saying? For the length of time that you did it working a certain job. You know what I'm saying? That's your compensation for your time and energy. But yet, you should be getting paid more. You know what I'm saying? But you get the minimum. You know what I'm saying? Which is exploitation and capitalism, which is a form of exploitation. Because if you really can get a maximum price for your commodity, where it appears like it's overpriced, and you still able to sell it, that's good. But you really want more for your product, but in an economy where everybody don't have a certain income level to where people can't afford certain prices, you try to fix the price in a way where, you know what, that is viable. I will get that. You know what I'm saying? But you can charge more for that. You know what I'm saying? In terms of making the most maximized profit for the commodity. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like capitalism, you know what I'm saying? It's all about making money. Now, the pros and cons of making money. Is it moral, what you doing to get money? Or is it immoral, what you doing to get money? Now, that's where this come in at, which shows how low people will go to create a certain financial institution. You know what I'm saying? To make money. You know what I'm saying? For the love of money is the root of all evil. To the point where stooping to certain lows like this that created capitalism off the backs of black slavery, you know what I'm saying, is what we fell in love with regarding capitalism that was birthed, right, out of black slavery all over the world. Listen to this concept. Listen to this information that give you insight on on the nature of what we dealing with in America. Slavery gave birth to capitalism. The international commercialization of blacks, what we was being sold all over the world, dealing with the European nations and here in America, right? Dealing with the Arab slave trade as well. Now, not to let them off the hook. This is to put things in its proper perspective for educational purposes that they pretty much lied to us about. But knowledge itself is on our side to set the record straight, where it equalizes the playing field for us to be in a position of advantage, ultimately to secure ourselves to be in a winning position, where these things are to for us to study and serve. Let's serve as an example, not to repeat anymore, to end up being in these kind of vulnerable situations. You know what I'm saying? So Let's continue to read though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we don't want to be vulnerable. We want to be invulnerable. The old European mercantilism was replaced by capitalism. Mercantilism meant profiting from the sale of a product, right? Regarding merchandise, you know what I'm saying? Things of this particular nature. Like, say for instance, me as a cosmetologist, I have a product line that's made up of silk wrap, serum, shampoo, conditioner, deep cleanser, hot oil treatments, things of this particular nature. You know what I'm saying? Sugar scrubs for pedicures, mercantile products, right? Which is different from capitalistic products that this is going to go into, right? Mercantilism meant profiting from the sale of a product. Capitalism means profit from another's labor. Now think about capitalism. How many people's labor in society is being pretty much utilized or exploited in a way where their labor is being exploited, right? Capitalism means profiting from another's labor, work, energy, time. I'm profiting from your time and energy. Is it in a good way? What do you think? You know what I'm saying? Not to take nobody's hustle away from them. If that's what you feel that you comfortable with doing, that's on you. I'm just saying, knowing the difference between mercantilism, which is the selling of making money from products, and capitalism, which, like this right here, is stating capitalism means profiting from another's labor. The word factory, right? We're getting into it. The word factory was first introduced in the 15th century to describe Portuguese buildings that were used as holding places for slaves at points along the West African coast. The word factory, right, was first introduced in the 15th century to describe Portuguese buildings, factories. So the factories that we see out here, you know what I'm saying, has its history and roots in being holding places for slaves to be sold. So when people be working these jobs at these companies that be having assembly lines and things of this particular nature, these factories actually is styled after these buildings, which was buildings they called factories, which housed slaves to be sold, right? For capitalism purposes, right? The word factory was first introduced in the 15th century to describe Portuguese buildings that were used as holding places for slaves at points along the West African coast. The franchising concept idea, as popularly known, was introduced by the English Royal African Company. Royal African Company in 1668 to establish a monopoly on the slave trading industry. Like modern day franchising chains, like chain stores, like, you know, we hear the word chain stores, like you have a successful restaurant, store, You know what I'm saying? You have many of the same restaurants and stores. Them are chain stores or chain restaurants, right? Chain stores, right? The franchising concept regarding, so that's franchising, like the chain stores. That's franchising, right? More the same store. The franchising concept is popularly known was introduced by the English Royal African Company in 1668 to establish a monopoly on the slave trading industry, right? Like modern day franchising chains, for a 15% fee, the Royal Arch Company provided its franchised slave plantations owners with land, supplies, slaves, military protection, and a ready market for their raw slave produced cash products. By the early 1800s, with a renewed interest in cotton production, plantations that had at least 100 slaves introduced a gang system of work. In the gang system, slaves were assigned work using a assembly line type process. That's what they call the gang system. So the assembly line process on plantations and factories is a gang system process that came out of the slavery operations, which to this day, right, the way these companies operate, from the models of these gang systems, processes, right, that, okay, now in the gang system, in the gang system, slaves were assigned work using an assembly line type process that revolutionized the use of slave labor, introduced mass production, and significantly increased productivity. Raw materials produced by slaves fueled both Europe's and America's industrial and banking revolutions. So the European and the American banking industries, you know what I'm saying? The banking revolutions that they experienced, in addition to America, was robust to such a degree they haven't changed from these models of their operations to this very day. Because what people say when they be going to these plants, when they be working, you know, a lot of people refer them to as plantations, right? So, regarding us having our own mercantile businesses, you know what I'm saying? It's a matter of acquiring the knowledge, believing in yourself, and putting yourself in the environment that will stimulate progressiveness, you know, and growth in that area to help meet the needs of people in our society in a healthy way, a healthy way. You know what I'm saying? Now, with that said, we have certain people in position of power and authority who appear to be educated, but in all actuality, in some cases, be ignorant as can be. So, regarding us as an organized people, right? dealing with, say for instance, the voting process of the United States of America. That's considered a democracy. But this is a Republican government for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, you know what I'm saying, with unity and justice for all. But yet, we have experienced so much turmoil and controversy when it regarding the American dream, to where people have been living an American nightmare, to where you have some people say, in order for you to believe in the American dream, you have to be asleep. And don't nothing come to a sleeper but what? A dream. So, I remember seeing something once upon a time. There was a quote by Muhammad Ali, where he was like, your dreams will come true when you wake up from them. In other words, certain ideas of the mind that you have, they will come true when you act upon them and take action to make them, to bring them about, to make them a reality. Now, that bring about change, right? Now, regarding these elections that people be participating in, they supposed to bring about positive changes in our world, right? But yet, it seemed like the more we want certain things to change, the more they stay the same or even get worse. When you have people talking about things gonna get worse before it get better. Wait a minute. So is that a waste of time? You know what I'm saying? For us to be participating in, oh wow, he gonna be, okay, this elected official here sound real good, you know what I'm saying, about things getting better and better, but yet, due to things getting worse before they get better, what makes you think things gonna get better now, since all of a sudden this person come along tickling our ears talking about, oh, voting for me, things really finna turn around. And then when they get in there again, right, they stab the people in the back again. This is insanity. So what they say about insane people, you know, insanity by definition is like someone doing the same thing and expecting different results. So people out here voting for these people, doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying, and expecting different results when they not getting different results. They getting the same results, which is insanity. So how do we get over this hump not to discourage people from voting? Or is it like a slot machine where you keep, you know what I'm saying, putting your money in it? You know what I'm saying? You might hit the first time, but if not, you know, you try to get the jackpot or the most maximum amount of money you can with the gambling, you know what I'm saying? And you keep feeding the machine trying to hit the jackpot. Eventually something give. It's as if voting has become a gamble by so-called educated voters, you know what I'm saying, who is well informed about when they make a vote for a person, they basing it on knowledge. They know about like the what was that, the agenda, the 2025 mandate or document that was in the public that was supposed to be like in sync with Donald Trump's idea for his campaign and things of that nature. When he get on public TV and say that's not something that he supported. See how the trickery keep just going back and forth, back and forth. What will make so who can we trust? What do we go on? You know what I'm saying? Now it appears, you know what I'm saying, in his administration and his cabinet, you got things going on without even going through Congress, which make things look fishy as well. So this is not how the American democracy works. You got to go through the Congress and things of this particular nature for stuff. So by me not being a political expert, right? Still, that don't mean that I don't have common sense about certain things. Now, for instance, they say fools duck when the fools duck when the truth is thrown at them. I say I'm a wise man when you throw truth at me because I catch it and carry it into practice. I utilize it to the best of my advantage. Now, regarding this election that just took place, right? You know, the state of affairs of our environment in addition to the rest of the world, you know what I'm saying, is we benefiting from these governmental institutions to be enriched? I think so, but yet certain forces are abusing certain position of power where they're being irresponsible, not doing what they really supposed to be doing as a result of the abuse of power. Where they say power unchecked is power that corrupts. Where that power corrupts absolutely. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Now, regarding particularly the wisdom, regarding this wisdom up by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, right? The national elections from the book The Fall of America, which takes me back to the point or statement that Martin Luther King made once upon a time when he said, you know what? I think I might be integrating my people into a burning house. Now, mind you, the book of The Fall of America being a prophetic book regarding the future of America. If America don't get its head right in terms of its mentality toward us as a people, right, will suffer a certain judgment of wrath. So in this area of time that we living in, for corrections to be made by these rulers in power, are y'all ruling in righteousness? I'm saying this to y'all. Are y'all ruling in righteousness? This is common sense now. You know what I'm saying? Us in this society is children of the Most High. But a lot of y'all, blinded by your own greed, causing y'all to lose friendships in all walks of life to the point where a certain suffering will take place for y'all regarding a certain judgment, a divine judgment, where a certain wrath will be brought down on y'all. These are warnings for all of us to get right. You know what I'm saying? The divine scheme of things. You know what I'm saying? So with that said, let the wisdom coming from this transmission here, or this portal of communication, you know what I'm saying, have a positive result, you know what I'm saying, for y'all to do right and cease of power. Now, this is a reality as far as what we be experiencing as a people dealing with election processes, right? Regarding domestically the United States of America, our home. You know what I'm saying? That we're supposed to take good care of. The national election, right? Regarding us, the black man of America, has been privileged by the slave masters, children, for the last century to vote for whites for the offices to judge and rule. Is that not a fact? Is that not a fact? Which takes me somewhere else. Now, hold on. It's going to make sense regarding the Constitution. Right? Hold on. I'm back. I found what I was looking for. One moment. Positive energy, activate constant elevation, baby. The God's bill. Now, regarding the Constitution, right? You know what I'm saying? That was made up by the founding fathers, right? Of the Constitution. Now they say the founding fathers, right? Like this, finna go into detail about the founding fathers of what? Right? Have you ever thought about that? The founding fathers of what after all these years? Sometimes, you know, we hear about things, right? But we don't quite get a grasp on things till later on in our adult life. You know what I'm saying? Just the nature of how the mind can be, you know, sometimes, or how things end up working out, or how the mind works sometimes. You know, sometimes we comprehend certain things early and we have a wake-up call about certain things with a proper perspective later on in life. It's just funny how life turns out like that sometimes. Anyway, going to regarding the Constitution, right? The founding fathers founded what? The founding fathers wrote the principles of white rule. Now, the Constitution of the United States of America is principles of white rule. Principles of white people's rule of this country, based on that document, which is considered the supreme the supreme law of this land, that apply to all of us, right? But yet, the founding fathers wrote the principles of white rule into the U.S. Constitution. The principles of white rule. So, the principles of white ruling power comes from this document of the founding fathers wrote the principles of white rule into the United States Constitution. Now, when public officials take the oath of office, right? You can Google that oath of office, right? Where they take the oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. That apply to all of us, all the nationalities. Supposedly, all the nationalities of the United States, right? The founding fathers wrote the principles of white rule into the U.S. Constitution. So, these rules of law regarding the white rules and regulations, these rules that we all abide by, right, are principles of white rules of our country. Now, we, people of the United States, meant we, the free white people, and the free white people only. Now, where does that leave room for us? Right? Which is going to take me somewhere else, which show why we have been marginalized as a people to fit the description of being a people who is a part of a different society as a nation within a nation. Now remember that term, separate but equal. Equal but separate. And we just read here, being clear, the founding fathers wrote the principles of white rule into the U.S. Constitution. We, people of the United States, meant we, the free white people, and the free white people only. So the term, we the people, is that a deception? Or have we been hoodwinked? Or have we been deceived to think the Constitution applied to us too? When they say we was written in it, where it officially applied to us according to the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment? We're just trying to make sense here. Now, with that said though, to this very day, right? Does that seem like why Trump have the attitude that he have, where he doing the things that he are doing, despite black people even voting for him, regarding the election process of our people? We be having our hopes up, thinking, you know what I'm saying, from an illusory state of mind in a fantasy land, a fantasy world that's not rooted in reality, when the reality is, could we be dealing with racism still at this very second, dealing with people in front of us who appear to be our friends, that we befriend, but yet in the back of the person's mind that we befriend are racist in nature, to where they is true to the foundation of this kind of psychology that the founding fathers had regarding the drafting of the Constitution, where they ain't have us in mind. You know what I'm saying? So who have us in mind? Well, we have a Constitution, you know what I'm saying, that is a Constitution that represents justice for all, instead of just a small group of racists. You know what I'm saying? Because we can never be racist. We not we not racist. But yet when we step up to the plate and make America look in the mirror about its injustices against us, they try to say we are practicing reverse racism when we ain't doing that at all. See the trickery they pull over your mind? And then you end up thinking, damn, you know what, I am a racist. You know what I'm saying? That's how quickly a lot of our people be brainwashed thinking they racist, then be acting in certain ways as if they are racist. You know what I'm saying? When it's not racism at all. It's just a reaction of internalized, screwed up thinking that got you convinced the wrong way. Every day it's a mind game to have people's mind in knots, bound up in confusion, foolishness, trickery, low vibratory rates, you know what I'm saying, of pure madness. Why they keep laughing all the way to the bank? Because after all, they is about the money. You know what I'm saying? So, with that said, ignorance is $1 billion industry, they say. So, of course, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to, say for instance, a viewer and a listener and a supporter of what I'm saying, right? Get access to this channel of information that is waking the mind up, opening the eyes of the listener, waking a person up who are sleeping. Or you may not be a sleeper. You may be a conscious individual who just learning additional woke up information to the point where they want to demonize the word woke. See this trick knowledge? See the trick knowledge? You know what I'm saying? This woke agenda, you know what I'm saying, of these particular people to the point where you know what you're talking about makes sense, you know what I'm saying, which expose the lies of the devil, you know what I'm saying, by being a light worker, right? Or chosen one star seed, what have you. They want to make it seem like what you are saying is crazy or foolish, when it actually is logical reasoning that makes sense about what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? Because they want to gaslight you and make you feel powerless, like you don't know what you're talking about. But the evidence is right before you, where you do know what you're talking about. That's why we have to stay confident in ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Through knowing ourselves that we are intelligent human beings with thought power, you know what I'm saying, which is the most potent power of the universe. You know what I'm saying? That certain forces want to try to contaminate to the point where your thoughts be cloudy. You don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? To the point where you be so deeply medicated from the spell of sleep. You become hypnotized through the repetitious lies that got you in a mindset of limbo, where you don't know up from down, left or right. You know what I'm saying? They got you in a state of mind where you feed off of confusion, where you attracted to drama. It's so entertaining to be looking at violence, human beings destroying one another, war stories. You know what I'm saying? How this female done wrong this guy. You know what I'm saying? How this guy done wrong this female. You know what I'm saying? Some kind of robbery on the news. Some kind of carjacking. You know what I'm saying? watching stuff that put your mind in an agitated state. You agitated, you know what I'm saying? You go on about your business, you know what I'm saying? But you still agitated from something you done seen earlier that it disturb your spirit for the rest of the day. You know what I'm saying? Chaos, the confusion is what that machine loves to continue to keep revved up for people to be distracted from the reality of power themselves. You know what I'm saying? So regarding the reality though of us protecting our rights, you know what I'm saying? Test the spirit to see if they are the spirit in this society, because if certain sectors of society is under the rule of the devil, right? That is a web of negativity when we are entitled to be free from the from the web of negativity. You know what I'm saying? Well, we are on a positive path of enlightenment, being rightly guided and connected to the Most High. You know what I'm saying? Instead of being lied to on a daily basis by all these tricksters. You know what I'm saying? This goes on to read, right? The Constitution guaranteed rights and freedoms for everyone but blacks. The black man could not assimilate. He was permanently nailed to the lowest rung of the social ladder, nailed to that cross, persecuted. Neither freedom nor good work could force whites to recognize him as an equal human being. During the Revolutionary War, at least 17 delegates to the Constitutional Convention, or 31% of all this nation's founding fathers, were slave holders themselves, right? So what was the humanity in these political figures who was considered to have morality? They were they didn't have no scruples to a certain degree as well. Well, they condoned the slavery, the raping of the women, you know what I'm saying? Impregnating the women, you know what I'm saying, with children that they didn't really love. They were just getting their rocks off in twisted ways. Now, this could continue to read. Collectively, they owned more than 1,400 slaves. George Mason, James Rutledge, and George Washington were three of the largest slaveholders in the country at the time of the Constitutional Convention. In descending order, the slaveholders and the number of slaves they each owned were many in number. There was only limited discussion of the slavery issue among the attendees of the convention. They were vested in the institution of slavery, and there is little doubt that they fully intended to exclude black people from the rights that they would guarantee for themselves and other whites in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. All of the framers of the Constitution were wealthy members of the upper class of American society, right? So it appears like if you wealthy, being rich is synonymous with white, being white is synonymous with riches, right? Well, we see these white people in society, they all have that particular kind of racist mentality. You know what I'm saying? From they forefathers and foremothers, as far as the modern day children of these people from back then, right? Still had that same mentality to the point where we see a lot of them is not like that, where they don't have that mentality to where they do believe in positive change when it comes to other races of people, or blacks in particular, right? All other framers of the Constitution were wealthy members of the upper class of American society, but they wanted to please poor whites and assure them, the poor whites, that they would always be above blacks, right? Regardless of their income and wealth. Now listen to this. By assuring them, the poor whites, that they would never have to compete with blacks, the white wealthy class bought themselves an insurance policies, right, forever against the formation of a poor white and black coalition. Now, for us who's considered, say for instance, I'm a poor black man, a poor righteous teacher, or I have a poor, or I have poor white friends. In the eyes of these rich circles, protected by certain policies, like how they say they got insurance policies, whether we know it or not, that protect poor white people, right? Where they don't protect us blacks, to where the poor white people that these policies protect, you know what I'm saying, will protect the white people from poverty or impoverishedness because of certain benefits that's available for them with certain written policies in place that we don't know about, that poor whites benefit from, that we don't benefit from. This is how they wording this, right? What they say, all other framers of the Constitution were wealthy people of the upper class of American society, but they wanted to please poor whites and assure them that they would always be above blacks, right? So in the eyes of white people, poor white people, you know what I'm saying, in their eyes, where they had a mentality to where they poor white people will always be looked as being above blacks, right? All of the framers of the Constitution were wealthy members of the upper class of the American society, but they wanted to please poor whites and assure them that they will always be above blacks, regardless of their income level and wealth. But assuring them, right, that they would never have to compete with blacks. And the white wealthy class bought themselves an insurance policy forever against the formulation of a poor white and black coalition. Now, with that said, right, we find ourselves in these social situations today and wonder, where did they come from? Now, that takes me somewhere else, which goes to show you the evidence of certain forces trying to get in the way of the progress or the environment that promote progressiveness for us as a people. And as far as us being as a people who going through so much opposition to overcome, you know what I'm saying, where we find ourselves in a better political position today in terms of like the unification of our people in all areas of people activity, you know what I'm saying, where we thriving as a nation, but yet we have oppositional forces that I'm going to point out, which is going to show you why we should be way ahead of where we are at today. But based on us being where we are at right now, it's because of certain oppositional jealous forces, you know what I'm saying, that want to interfere with our growth and progressiveness politically and internationally. Now, back to this though, right? Remember the national elections, right? Where the black man and woman of America has been privileged by the slave masters' children for the last century to vote for whites for the offices to judge and rule. Yet, due to, say for instance, like civil rights gain accomplishments, like with what was that? DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, you see our people in positions or seats of power, of authority and rule, to where they connecting us, they people, to resources through the government, resources. Like for instance, the purpose of the government is to connect the people, us, we the people, right? To have resources distributed to us and allocated to us, which is a good thing. But yet you have certain racist institutions that see this gain of power and want to try to roll it back and set us back in these political areas that's lawful and legal, to where we getting access to riches. You know what I'm saying? To where we ended up rich too in the United States of America. But this continue to read in this line of reasoning though, right? This is saying, okay, now the black man and woman in the United States have been privileged by the slave masters' children for the last century to vote for whites for the office to judge and rule. This freedom to vote has made the black man and woman in America feel very dignified and proud of themselves. They goes to the polls very happy to vote for a white ruler. Today, he is gradually changing to a desire to vote. Today they is gradually changing to a desire to vote for their own kind for such offices of authority, which is accurate. We want to see ourselves in power, not to be discriminatory, but to be non-discriminatory. You know what I'm saying? Now, we must remember that our vote is strong and powerful only when and where the white man can use it to get in the office over his white opponent. After the election and the victory, there are very few favors that come from his office to the black voters who help and aid him in getting in office. Why? Because he does not owe the black voter anything as long as he has to feed, clothe, and shelter them. The black vote could be cast or not cast. The white citizens of the government are going to win and continue to rule anyway. There is much talk of this man and that man. Who shall the vote of the people put in the White House for the next 4 years? How much good have the two parties, Republican and Democrat, done for us for the last century in the way of freedom, justice, and equality? Regardless of what party wins, the die is always set against us, the black people in America. Why is that? This is what is it in terms of this humongous jealousy against us? Why is this all this derogatoryism? I mean, it's just insane. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? How can people have such a fixated view against the makers, the owners, the creams of the planet Earth, the gods and goddesses of the universe, when ain't nothing poor about us? We have been blessed being connected to the resources of the planet from our lands that is rich in resources. There's nothing poor about us. That's where the psychological conditioning came in at, to impoverish us in the mind to fall into the technology games of a system of illusions rooted in the creation through the European and American exploitation of black slavery that gave birth to capitalism here in America, right? Now, untangling our minds from the knots that was put inside our brains, our minds, for us not to be able to conceive things the right way that will free us from the hypnotic spells of mind control through lack of knowledge itself, from twisted information that was fed to us to be confused in our minds, to where we was out our minds and spiritually intoxicated and drunk from the foolishness of wrong knowledge. Not right knowledge, but wrong knowledge, which a lot of our people still drunk from to this very day, where they out of balance, they out of sync with the proper fine tuning that they need, that will have them in proper alignment with the real facts, where they can see things clearly and see through the lies that the deceivers use to put misinformation out in the atmosphere that's connected with the satanic principles of the prince of the air. See, the atmosphere has been affected by this particular frequency of unawareness, unconsciousness, to where a lot of people is feeding from their lower selves, chasing after lustful desires without cultivating the higher self of the mind, through the mind's eye, third eye, and crown chakra, where we have union with the Most High, being on the same page of certain high vibratory frequencies that is, and that they will be in constant communication with, you know what I'm saying, that'll be connected with the right things to do, how to talk to people, how to be of a good service to people, how to be selfless and not selfish, like a lot of these racist power structures do, for their own self-aggrandizement, you know what I'm saying, without thinking about, you know, the rest of they fellow man on an agreeable level. You know what I'm saying? But to a certain degree, you know what I'm saying, it's like they have a sense of humanity, but yet certain deep-rooted racist policies is the foundation which they base their interactions on. You know what I'm saying? Which does not rub a lot of people the right way. So they gotta correct their policies. They gotta correct their ways in a way where it develop agreeable energies and interactions with their fellow man. Because mind you, this line of reasoning is leading somewhere, right? To where the black vote could be cast, like you say, the black vote could be cast or not. The white citizens of the government are going to win and continue to rule anyway. There are much talk of this man and that man who shall the vote of the people, put in the White House for the next 4 years. How much good have the two parties, Republican and Democrat, done for us for the last century in the way of freedom, justice, and equality? Regardless of what party wins, the die is always set against us, the black people in America, that we find ourselves fighting certain powers that be in, speaking truth to powers, you know what I'm saying, for a lot of corrections and civil protections and human rights protections or indigenous rights protections to be respected and recognized, right? This goes on to read, right, where it states that injustice, crooked politics, and the breeding of corruption under crooked politics have been practiced ever since Adam to the present day rulers. Adam was the first crook. There has not been justice for the black man in this race of people. And this is why the race suffers from the effect of chaos today. There are black politicians who would like to use their black people for selfish greed and will throw them behind any crook with money. Black politicians of this type have sold their black brothers to suffering and shame for self-elevation with the crook. This election is one of the most serious in the history of American government because either party that seeks the office of presidency is faced with the problem of saving the lives of the people of America. If the present party, Democrat, remains in office, you know the answer. If the Republican Party takes office, you should know the answer. You should know. There will be a lull before the storm. The storm can be delayed in every hour and day. That it can be delayed is to your benefit. The black man should be very serious and careful about his voting because 90% of the black votes cast are cast by ones who do not have the knowledge of what they are casting their vote for. I still say, as I have said for many years, vote for Allah, vote for God, vote for Al-Kulum, vote for the All, the Creator, vote for the Most High to be your ruler, and come follow me, right? Now, in light of following a same voice amongst darkness, where we are to be renewed into a certain orientation of a higher civilization that's beyond the technology, but with honest character, with a moral compass through God consciousness. You know what I'm saying? And for those rulers that's in office to hear this supreme wisdom are doing justice toward themselves and the people to take into consideration this divine guidance and insight of the master teachers. You know what I'm saying? The messengers of the Most High. You know what I'm saying? So, as far as our own personal lives, may we take heed to the warnings in our own personal life. I ain't talking about what they doing, because them rulers, they responsible for their actions too. So we can't get in the way of the karmas of the world that is going to come back on them. You know what I'm saying? Or can't nobody get in the way of the karma, you know what I'm saying, that may try to befall us if we are here doing negative things out here that can end up coming back to us. That's why we have to be on guard to guard ourselves against evil and keep ourselves in good standing with the universe through right thinking and right actions, to where certain negative karma will not touch us. You know what I'm saying? Like in a language you can understand. Like when in the Christian world, when they was talking about the Passover. You know what I'm saying? Certain bad things will pass us by and won't happen to us because of our good standing, you know what I'm saying, based on where our mind is at and our hearts is at, spirit and soul, and good vibratory energy and high vibration race is at, you know what I'm saying, positive things, you know what I'm saying, we shall experience. You know what I'm saying? Where that stuff will bypass us. You know what I'm saying? Where we'll stay healthy in a healthy state with peace of mind and contentment. You know what I'm saying? So, as far as adding on to this knowledge, you know what I'm saying, the most positive form, right? Now, let's keep it 100. A lot of our people is still out here in the days to where you a brother or sister out here kicking knowledge, you know what I'm saying, on some kind of higher level, dealing with higher sciences of life and spirituality. You know what I'm saying? It's a matter of us being responsible to save ourselves, because we can think and we have an opportunity to want to think, or having developed a habit to become a thinker about things, you know what I'm saying, that will enable you to keep your moral compass intact and not end up slipping, you know what I'm saying, by the evil one who is always watching, you know what I'm saying, for the weaknesses in the Most High's creation to exploit. You know what I'm saying? So we have to stay guarded against the evils of the world. Now, they take me somewhere. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm back. Check it out, right? We always in a constant process of bettering ourselves, right? And in the process of bettering ourselves, you know, it's a healthy act as a result of intelligence that we are to value, right? So in light of valuing, you know, our intelligence, it has worth. It's worth it. Now, you might ask, like, a lot of us, you know, like, dang, we supposed to be way, you know, by 9, you know what I'm saying? We supposed to be like of a certain level as a nation of people, blacks, right? Nubians, Nuwabians, what have you, right? Now, it was just saying, by now we should be in the terms of economics. Trillions and trillions of dollars of a nation, a $1 trillion producing nation, you know what I'm saying, a year, what have you, right? Now, certain things serve as evidence that have gotten in the way of our progress. For instance, like certain progressive organizations and groups that we participate in as a people for self-determination, but yet certain interrupting forces try to serve as infiltrators or interlopers to interfere with what we got going on privately, trying to blossom and bloom and do for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? As an independent nation of people. But yet, you have forces like what's documented in our history that people can't deny, such as COINTELPRO. You know what I'm saying? Interfering with the progress of black people. You know what I'm saying? Or say for instance, like regarding geopolitical contemplations. You know what I'm saying? Regarding elements to enrich ourselves as a nation of people commercially with international connections all over the world, right? Like, we not behind because of failure as a people. We not way behind as a result of failure as a people, right? We have been targeted by certain forces who try to get in our way of our progress, such as like the COINTELPRO, the segregation, the Jim Crow laws, the Willie Lynch, you know what I'm saying? A number of other things, 100 years of lynching, media demonization of us, police brutality, and Christian black codes, surveillance, right, of movements by COINTELPRO. You know what I'm saying? No other groups in America went through these type of things like us. You know what I'm saying? Regarding insurance redlining, not being able to get loans from banks to start up businesses, politics of land theft toward black farmers, jealous of us in many ways, you know what I'm saying, where because of our smartness that show that we are smarter in certain areas as a result of black inventions. You know what I'm saying? Surveillance. You know what I'm saying? And other elements, of spiritual deception. You know what I'm saying? Through being brainwashed with certain information that's not a part of our true culture, to where we have adopted being in the mentality of Europeans with black skin. You know what I'm saying? So, the crack epidemic, dealing with the continuous ills in our communities that get in the way of our progress, mass incarceration, you know what I'm saying, convict leasing, and things of this particular nature. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with the criminality of the black man and woman, and with the feminist psychology of the black woman. You know what I'm saying? That breeds separation between them and us, creating dysfunction amongst the sexes, rigged up economic system. You know what I'm saying? Interfering with the proliferation flow of money to always ending up in our hands when we can take care of our households. You know what I'm saying? When we got opportunities, you know what I'm saying, where we can be entrepreneurs and be go-getters and make our products, you know what I'm saying, as regarding the mercantilism, producing products, you know what I'm saying, that's useful for people to buy. We can be successful in making our own products. So with that said, I want y'all to have a understanding, a understanding, and an overstanding and outerstanding, right? Know this, we are accomplishers. You know what I'm saying? We are not failures. We are accomplishers. Yet, for whatever reason, you got forces that may try to stifle your growth. But guess what? Those are just hurdles that's designed to just get over and keep progressing. That's all to it. We can't be stopped in terms of our rise. Now, with that said, we are supposed to grow. You know what I'm saying? That is natural nature at work. So, in light of that being said, the message of the messenger is right and exact. Right? There's still a lot of work to do amongst our people. You know what I'm saying? Getting around the lie, the constant lies, you know what I'm saying, that be fed to us by deceivers who want to deceive. Now watch this, right? This go on to continue to read, right? But that also take me to another place regarding the falsification of black people's awareness. You know what I'm saying? And how people done picked up a lot of bad habits with the criminal images. You know what I'm saying? That has been created by white supremacy forces. That's just the reality of what we have come in contact with, you know what I'm saying, by living in what's called the belly of the beast, being raised in this environment to where we have adopted certain traits to where we have the same mentality of the beast. You know what I'm saying? So, to develop the God mind, this is a personal desire that one have to want to desire for themselves to live in the image and likeness of the Most High that we was created in. Remember the purity in which you was created in. Be yourself. Because there's a lot of things pulling on our minds to take us in all kind of directions. You know what I'm saying? That is a product of a mentality that is not of us. Exorcism really has to get performed on us by our own selves through working on ourselves deep down inside, getting this stuff up out of us. You know what I'm saying? To where we not housing spirit forces that are 6 ether in nature. As 9 ether beings. You know what I'm saying? In our right mind, not in our wrong mind. You can look at society out here and see a lot of people out of their right mind. Therefore, they have been possessed by certain spirits, right? That is not of who they are. You can see it. You know what I'm saying? So they influenced by them unclean spirits, will serve as a signal for chosen ones, star seeds, and light workers like us, you know what I'm saying, to stay away from. You know what I'm saying? But move with caution to communicate or convey a word of enlightenment for them to take into consideration and be transformed. You know what I'm saying? And want to change for the better. That's all we can do. But it's but as far as, us keeping ourselves, intact with our mission, being on of the rightly guided. You know what I'm saying? We always have to keep in remembrance that we are to stay guarded against the disagreeableness. Now, check this out, right? Regarding, say, like, the black on black violence, right? Dealing with psychodynamics of black self-destruction or black self-annihilation that work in service of white domination. It was a psychologist that was like, when black people destroy themselves, that is actually what white supremacy need, because it enables them to operate in silence to where they haven't made any noise that's associated with violence toward us themselves directly, to the point where when we see our peoples destroying themselves, right, that meet the needs of adversarial forces that don't like our people. You know what I'm saying? For unjust reasons. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, it's like regarding nature, regarding humanity, like the animal kingdom. Are we just natural enemies? Is there a such thing people ever coming together? Are we just natural enemies? Like the animal kingdom have natural enemies. Us as human beings in the human being kingdom, are we just natural enemies toward one another, to where the frequency of love is impossible? Like they say, love knows no color line. Is this just wishful thinking? You know what I'm saying? Us loving each other. Love covers a multitude of sins, they say. Right? Is the love genuine? But yet, regarding the black on black hate, the black on black violence, let's look at it. All white people is not evil. There are a lot of white people who stand for good. I agree, right? And that's in all races, because like the master teacher wrote the book, Are There Black Devils? We know those black devils that fit the description of being the black devils that's of the devil seed, that is not off the hook when it comes to ones being tied to the evil one's seed on the planet, right? But yes, we have extremism. You know what I'm saying? We have extremism when it comes to racist minds. Yet a lot of us mislabeled though. You have certain forces that call us who identify with teachings, you know what I'm saying, that's about nurturing black people politically, economically, socially, in all areas of people activity, as black supremacists, which is a trick. You know what I'm saying? We not black supremacists. We just have love for ourselves, to where we want to see ourselves benefiting from nurturing positive social input that renders us well, that sustain our livelihood and well-being as a people. You know what I'm saying? Regarding self-determination, which all races is entitled to. That don't make races supremacists because of you know what I'm saying, that group consciousness, you know what I'm saying, of ourselves. But you have people who do the works of the evil one, who like to throw words out there to make you seem like you doing something wrong because you addressing things based on pragmatic reality. What does pragmatic mean? The word pragmatic means the recording, like documenting information, the recording of past events that actually took place in life, that's recorded as history, that you can look back on and like, check out this information in history that actually happened, that will enable me to have insight about certain facts of life in reality, right? So, in light of the pragmatic reality, the black on black crime that I was speaking on, may it come to a cease, because the psychological conditioning of that behavior, you know what I'm saying, in a lot of cases, a lot of our people is acting like that because acting aggressive toward one another like that instead of directing that energy to where it should be directed. You know what I'm saying? So the black aggression, it was, like the black hatred and violence and stuff like that is misdirected energy toward somewhere other than where it's supposed to be redirected toward the real issue that a lot of these black on black victimizers is scared of, because they in fear of the real source of their problems, which is the bigger picture of the injustices of these societal abuses of these hate groups, white supremacy in particular. Okay, for instance, let's look at it. Let's look at it. Let's look at some things. Okay, now, say for instance, right, certain psychology and terminologies. The statistics are alarming according to the Uniform Crime Reports published by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 1986. Blacks accounted for 46%, right? 46.5% of all arrests for violent crimes, even though blacks comprise 12% of the United States population. Blacks account for 48% of the persons arrested for a murder, 46.6% of all arrests for rape, 39.8% for assault. In the cities of the United States, blacks account for 49.5% of all arrests for violent crimes, murder, forcible rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. In 1986, of those persons under 18 years of age, blacks accounted for 54.9% of those arrested for violent crimes. The highest violent crime rates are demonstrated by young black males. More young black men died from homicide in 1 year, 1977. In 1 year, 1977, then died in 10 years in the Vietnam War. Black men are 6 times as likely as white men to be murder victims. Murder is the fourth leading cause of death for black males of age 20 to 29. Between the ages of 15 to 24, homicide is the leading cause of death among black males. The odds of becoming a murder victim are less than 1 in 24 young black males living in the cities between ages 20 and 29. Most violent crimes, 84% amongst blacks, were committed by black offenders. Over 40% of all jail inmates throughout the nation are black, and the percentage is rapidly rising. According to political scientist, sociologist Manning Marable, by 1982, nearly one half of all suicides amongst blacks occurred amongst people between age 20 and 34 years. Black males who kill themselves account for 36% of the total number of suicides. But statistics don't tell the half of it, right? These statistics represent more than the often not outcome of institutional racism. The violent and self-destructive demise of every significant portion of the African American community, and perhaps the whole of that community, as evidenced by the crime statistics cited above, is not merely symptomatic of the socio-economic ills which plague the lower strata of its social hierarchy. The major and by far more important part of the story is represented by these statistics, is that the tragic activities they depict are the reactionary result of a deliberate psycho-political campaign against the African American and Pan-African communities, right? This is a psycho-political campaign, right? How this is accomplished and for what reasons comprise the subject matter of this book. Statistics can only faintly reflect the psychosocial and socio-economic turmoil prevalent in far too many inner cities today. Moreover, they too mutely herald the social Armageddon and final judgment fast approaching the African American and worldwide African communities if they do not issue an urgent call to arms and defeat the enemy at their gates, the enemy of negativity and negative thoughts, and replace that with positive thoughts of positive social interactions. Well-meaning sociologists and criminologists will have us think that it is unemployment that's the cause of this stuff. Lack of adequate education and job skills, broken homes, drug addiction, learning disabilities, lack of government commitment, black male irresponsibility, capitalism, that beloved psycho-political straw man of white radicals and black socialists, which are among the major causes of black criminality and black-on-black violence. The white American community will have us think that increased police surveillance, apprehension and punishment, increased investment in police weaponry and manpower, increased prison construction. According to Manning Marable, authorities will have to add 1,800 new prison beds each week just to keep pace with the rate of increase in the penal population. Longer and harsher sentences, containment of the black community. Just say no to drugs, a war on drugs, a war on poverty, and the likes would curtail and prevent self-destructive violence, criminality, and social deterioration so prevalent in the African American community. Time and experience have amply demonstrated that such approaches are overworked, ineffective, and bankrupt. Moreover, such approaches have not attacked the primary causal factor in black criminality and violence, which is white supremacy. Now, what does white supremacy, what place does white supremacy play in all of these derogatory, debilitating, negative statistics of the black on black violence? What is its connection to it? White supremacy, by its very nature and intent, requires the continuing oppression and subordination of African peoples, and in time may require their very lives. Subordination of a people requires that people in some way or ways be violated, be dehumanized, be humiliated, and that some type of violence be perpetrated against them. The violently oppressed react violently toward their oppression. The violently oppressed react violently toward their oppression. When their reactionary violence, their retaliatory or defensive violence cannot be effectively directed at their oppressors or effectively applied to their self-liberation, it then will be directed at and applied destructively toward themselves. This is the essence of black on black violence. Oppressive violence is both preactive and reactive, direct and misdirected. Black men kill each other because they have not yet chosen to challenge and neutralize on every front the widespread power of white men to rule over their lives. White oppression. The ban of the African community is the exploitive white American community, which projects a so-called civilized image of themselves, fraternal, egalitarian, liberal face, while concurrently at the same time seeking to maintain white supremacy. This means that the white American community must maintain African subordination while not appearing to do so. It must cannibalistically sacrifice the vitality, autonomy, and if need be, the life of the African American community while posing as its benefactor and savior. Look at this psychology here. Now, just continue to read. It pleads innocent while washing his hands of the blood of the African people. This duplicitous task can only be accomplished by making it appear that the African community is dying of natural causes, not of an ingenious attempt on the part of the white American community to strangle it to death. This means that African Americans' hands must be used to plunge the white American manufactured dagger into the hearts of African American citizens. This is the assigned role of the black on black violent criminal. How this role is played out will be delineated in the chapter that follows to explain the problem of African subordination in terms of racism, racial hatred, and the likes is to misdirect and mislead the African American community down the irrational and destructive path of seeking to overcome racism, as if racism could exist without some race of people being empowered to practice it, while leaving the power and need to practice this behavior in white hands. The African American and worldwide African communities have chased phantoms, explanations, and solutions to their detriment. While the explanations and solutions expressed in this book may or may not be accepted by the reader, he or she must accept the fact that new explanations and solutions must be found and applied full speed ahead. At the center of any explanation of violence in the Black American community must exist a detailed description of a conscious and subliminal psychological material means by which hostile white American hegemonic attitudes are violently acted out in African Americans' interpersonal relations. Central to any set of solutions to the problems of crime and violence must exist an effective program for curtailing and rendering ineffective the white American community's ability to practice white supremacy and to continue its domination, benevolent or otherwise, of African American community life. Additionally, the African American community must so construct its psycho-political consciousness, its socio-economic relations, the socialization and education of its children, and its cultural values, such that it will no longer permit certain of its segments to be unwittingly recruited to execute against its own body politic white American death wishes towards it. We recognize that unemployment, underemployment, poverty, drugs, poor education, inadequate housing, overcrowding, and the likes are tangibly related to black-on black criminality and violence. We question their causal roles, however, they represent secondary effects. They reflect the fact that white Americans at this time possess an inordinate amount of power to defend and extend their economic, psycho-political, and socio-cultural advantages at the expense of African Americans. These advantages, such as they are, can only be enhanced and maintained through racist policies and practices that the current white American pretense of accepting racial integration and assimilation notwithstanding. Instead of being a remnant from the past, the social hierarchy based on race is a critical component in the organization of modern American society regarding the social hierarchy. The subordination because of the color of one's skin is a primary determinant of people's position in the social construct, in the social structure. Racism is the structural relationship based on the subordination of one racial group by another. Given this perspective, the determining feature of race relations is not prejudice towards blacks, but rather the superior position of whites in its institutions, ideological as well as structural, which maintains it. White American power is utilized to spawn the preconditions and conditions of black on black violence. White American political economic power has been and is utilized to strip the African American community of its power to defend itself against the plagues of violence, the plagues of drug abuse, the plagues of crime, AIDS, and other social and biological ills or ailments which so painfully afflict it. This empowerment of the black community, the primary purpose of which is to leave it fundamentally defenseless against white American socio-economic incursion and exploitation, also leaves it defenseless against the other ills which threaten to totally undermine its health and well-being. Thus, the conditions which are baneful to the African American community are those conditions which help to maintain white American power and domination over the community. These conditions are so subtly orchestrated that their orchestration is often unnoticed by its intended victims and are, more often than not, misperceived and misinterpreted by them as originating endemically from their own minds and characters. We argue herein that black on black criminality and violence play a crucial role in maintaining white American power in all of its manifestations. Now, that's key right there. That we argue herein that black on black criminality and violence play a crucial role in maintaining white American power in all of its manifestations. A sense of powerlessness and interpersonal violence are inextricably intertwined. Absolute powerlessness as well as absolute power corrupts. For violence has its breeding ground in impotence and apathy. True aggression has been so often and so regularly escalated into violence that anyone's discouragement and fear of it can be understood. But what is not seen is that this state of powerlessness, which leads to apathy and which can be produced by the above plans for the uprooting of aggression, is the source of violence. As we make people powerless, we promote their violence rather than its control. Deeds of violence in our society are performed largely by those trying to establish their self-esteem, to defend their self-image, and to demonstrate that they, too, are significant or important. Regardless of how derailed or wrongly used these motivations may be or how destructive their expression, they are still the manifestation of positive interpersonal needs. We cannot ignore the fact that no matter how difficult their redirection may be, these needs themselves are potentially constructive. Violence arises not out of superfluity of power, but out of powerlessness. As Hannah Arendt has so well said, violence is the expression of impotence. Now, regarding black on black criminality and violence, represent questions for power and outrage protests against a sense of powerlessness and insignificance. They are protective fetishes used to defend against feelings of hopelessness and vulnerability. Black on black violence is reflective of vain attempts to achieve basic positive human ends in a negative environment by negative means. It represents an often misguided, furious struggle for self affirmation by many African Americans while entangled in a white American spun spiderweb specifically designed and constructed to accomplish their disaffirmation. Black on black violence and criminality are rooted in positive white American values. So, black criminality is rooted in white American values. So, in other words, the deep psychological aspects of that perspective in terms of white supremacy valuing negative images of our people, or white supremacy valuing the criminality of our people, which is a good image for them that they have for us, which is really a bad image that we have for ourselves, that where we think criminality is cool, but it's a trick, where it's a social dysfunction amongst ourselves that contribute to the black on black crime that's rooted in powerlessness. You know what I'm saying? As negative behavior we engage into, right, that render us negative socially. You know what I'm saying? To where our people end up in negative circumstances, getting caught up in the prison industrial complex and things of that particular nature. You know what I'm saying? So to see these particular perspectives and these kind of lights is important, to not get caught up in the web of negative images. You know what I'm saying? So getting rid of them criminal looks or getting caught up in criminal lifestyles, that's a trick. You know what I'm saying? Where the evil one make wrong look right and right look wrong. It's right for our people to adopt our Nubian cultural images. But according to the scriptures, the devil want to strip you of your garments. The devil want to strip you of your righteous garments. It's just the work of the devil in terms of the evil work of the devil and things that the devil do to strip you of your good image. When you become contaminated with the dirt, the dross of the world. That's why we got to stay on guard against being stripped of our garments. That gives us power regarding that armor of God. Now, this psychology is deep here. How these certain forces value things for us that is not good for us in the first place. That's really crazy. Anyway, this goes on to read, black on black violence is reflective of vain attempts to achieve basic positive human ends in a negative environment by negative means. It represents an often misguided, furious struggle for self-affirmation by many black by many African Americans while entangled in a white American spun spiderweb specifically designed and constructed to accomplish their disaffirmations. Black on black violence and criminality are rooted in positive white values. Irrational quests for power, prestige, possessions, affection, and acceptance among peers so as to secure illusory reassurance against anxiety, self-contempt, and feelings of inferiority. They are rooted as well in attempts to protect against exploitation by others, also caught up in the same rapacious social environment. Greedy, rapacious social environment generated and sustained by egregious, conspicuously, readily noticed white American values. That's conspicuously wrong. That appear to be white values that's right in the eyes of society, which really is questionable and wrong. For too many African American youth being cut off from the paths to legitimate and self-determined personal accomplishment as a result of underdeveloped power of the African American community. The violent subduing of others may often be their only significant achievement and claim to fame. They may, as argued by these individuals, right, seize upon the manipulation of violence as a route to status, not only because it provides a way of expressing pent-up angers and frustrations, but also because they are not cut off from access to violent means by narcissists, by vicissitudes of birth. In the world of violence, such attributes as race, socioeconomic positions, age, and the likes are irrelevant. Personal growth is judged on the basis of qualities that are available to all who will cultivate them regarding personal growth. The acquisition of status is not simply a consequence of skill in the use of violence or of physical strength, but depends rather on one's willingness to risk injury or death in the search for a rep. The capacity to perpetrate violence is the great equalizer in a world characterized by great inequalities. The need of many black males to achieve power and self-affirmation through the use of violence is cogently stated by Coulter when they argues that in disorganized urban areas of American cities, men tend to feel that only prowess is interpersonal violence, or in aggressive sexual encounters allows the achievement of personal identity and permit gaining otherwise unavailable difference. Where no social status can be achieved through socioeconomic channels, it may yet be achieved in the show of violence amongst equally deprived peers. They further notes that since Negroes are assigned to the lowest positions in all three dimensions of American status system. Ethnicity at the bottom, class-wise at the bottom, and educationally wise at the bottom. Yet in some cases, this can be proven different or wrong, or we are ethnically in certain positions of power, ethnically at the top, or class-wise at the top, or educationally wise at the top, depending on how, depending on um, depending on the reality of that social construct. And since their mobility chances, right, are nil in the first and minimal in the second and third, it stands to reason that achievement in the area of interpersonal violence might be seen as a channel leading to self-regard and self-enhancement, at least as long as conflict with the dominant white majority seems socially unavailable as a means of collective action. If we are to curb black on black crime and violence, we must choose to see their presence and increase in ways other than as signals for an all-out war against crime, or read war against black youth, black males, and the black community, black on black violence, and criminality must not be perceived as mere calls to earn a police state as the basis for rationalizing increased prison construction and the defensive perspective of all black males as criminals. These reactionary measures only exacerbate the problem. When will white America, with some very significant proportions of black America, come to its senses and recognize the various equations it has written on the blackboard of American society? More police equal more crime. More judges equal more convicts. More prisons equal more inmates. More laws equal more criminals. More white repressive violence equal more black reactive violence. More white violence against black minds equal more black violence against white and black bodies. The equations must be rewritten, new balances must be achieved, and the new equations must include new and equal balances of African American and white American power, prosperity, respect, and positive self-regard. The constant increase in the black on black violence and criminality reflects the constant incremental generation by prevailing socioeconomic conditions of black hostility and anxiety, fueled by a constantly increasing sense of futility. Thus, black on black violence and criminality are danger signals, flashing red indicators of explosive social inequalities, dysfunctionalities, dislocations, and conflicts. They are alarming reminders that the white American dominated body politic is diseased, in danger of cardiac arrest, and in need of radical surgery and intensive care. More than danger signals to white America, black on black violence and criminality are calls for the radical self-reconstruction and self-empowerment of the African American community, made up of its men and women. Consequently, the African American community must wrest control over its material and non material life from non African hands if it is to rid itself of intra communal interpersonal violence. The demise of black on black the demise of black on black violence will begin with the renaissance of authentic black power, which is a positive thing regarding black power. So, regarding the nationality of our people, you know what I'm saying? Empowering ourselves is a positive thing. You know what I'm saying? Empowering ourselves is a positive thing. Black power is a positive thing. So look at how a lot of our people been distracted to think it's not in fashion to participate in black power, which is therapeutic and full of remedies to solving these critical problems of the black community to bring healing to the nation. You know what I'm saying? So being free from the immature thinking that a lot of our people is caught up in, that's constantly being exploited by these particular forces, you know what I'm saying, that maintain its status quo, you know what I'm saying, in terms of seeing that a lot of our people's ignorance is a positive value to them, when those ignorant characteristics and attributes of our people are not positive traits. They are not things for us to be valuing at all. You know what I'm saying? This criminality, this is nothing for us to be valuing at all. You know what I'm saying? But those are positive values of oppressive forces that want to keep our people in a state of being misguided. You know what I'm saying? Where they can parasitically and vampiristically feed, you know what I'm saying, off of the blood of the ignorance, you know, of the participants in the cycle of this negativity that they feed from out here regarding the low vibratory behavior patterns that reflect this criminality and ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Now, this continue to enlighten with these positive revelations, right? Regarding a renaissance in the black community, regarding our people waking up to organization and excuse me, waking up to organization, our people waking up to this right here regarding the renaissance, right? Of our people waking up to the organization of black power are positive things in the community that we have to recognize as things that's healthy and positive. And nothing weak about these approaches to organize our communities through. That goes to show you the stupidity of a lot of our people falling for that, but yet give energy to white values of us being criminal lies, you know what I'm saying, where that criminalization work in service of their domination over our people, when we are really is to gauge in progressive ways to come up out of the them negative environments and institutions, you know what I'm saying, transform our energies to becoming business psychologists, you know what I'm saying, in legal ways that will enable us to build empires, you know what I'm saying, that has standing in the law, nationally and internationally, and things of this nature, regarding bigger pictures of us being free from some negative slave mentalities. You know what I'm saying? When we speak of African American, Pan African self empowerment, we refer not to the bogus, illusory power of token black house servants, the mock white power, you know what I'm saying, of the black bourgeoisie, or the sycophantic bootlicking power of black politicians. We neither include the pie in the sky, white God-fearing power of black preachers, the allegiance diplomatic power of puppeted neo-colonial African heads of state, powers which needs ask the permission or authorization of any other race to express and actualize themselves, nor the reactionary self-destroying community decimating power of the black on black criminal who speak we speak here of a true and honest African American, Pan African power, or Nubian, Moor, Anunnaki, Neter, you know what I'm saying? Nubian power, which springs full force from African manhood, womanhood, and humanity. A power which harness the abundant intellectual, emotional, behavioral, cultural, spiritual, and material resources of African peoples and uses them to secure and protect the survival, well-being, and self-actualization of the total African community. You know what I'm saying? Much love to the Sankofa movement dealing with the global African community. This power we seek will not be given, but it must be taken. That's why we have to take initiative and make the conscious choices to do what's right for our well-being, period. Unapologetically, because it's the right thing to do, to be free from all the social retardation and corruption. You know what I'm saying? Where we can socially thrive and progress and grow, structured around the supreme wisdom of the harmonics of God psychology, right? This power we seek will not be given. It must be taken. This is the moment of truth. The African American, Pan African community must do for self, like do or die. No, we trying to live. We not about dying. We about living. Even though the world we in, you know what I'm saying, has a cycle of life and death. While we live, may we tap into our potential regarding a rebirth of mind, where we are alive and well, forever live, living well, structured around the positive life forces of our spirituality, where we create a world, you know what I'm saying, that reflect the nature in which we are created in regarding beings of the Most High. But yet in this psychological and spiritual warfare, you know what I'm saying, it is what it is. So we must be well equipped psychologically, spiritually, and mentally to know how to strategize for ourselves to where we beyond, you know, these particular forces that don't have nothing to do, you know, with us being rightly guided. You know what I'm saying? So that takes me to another area. Hold on 1 minute. Hold up, I'm back, y'all. Had to go get this other piece of information to bring this all the way together. You know what I'm saying? Regarding the conclusion of this. You know what I'm saying? Based on the pragmatic events of history, you know what I'm saying, that has something to do with our present reality right now. You be the judge. Is this true or is this false? And this is right here dealing with the fall of America by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in connection with other spiritual teachings that is in fact dealing with the reality of our sojourn here in America, connected with the diaspora, as well as our brothers and sisters in Africa, Australia, Asia, everywhere, pretty much, right? Regarding like how Panabab Yanun is here to set the record straight regarding clarity of the true interpretations of the scriptures. Now this goes on to read. This goes on to read, right? Deceivers and the deceived, right? We, the whole nation of the lost found members of the black nation in America, must remember that for the past 400 years plus, we have been reared by the enemies of our fathers. According to their own history writings, bringing us from our native land and people into the Western Hemisphere was not for the purpose of making themselves friendly people to us or our nation, but to deceive us as being that which they actually were, not a friend or an advisor to us, while at the same time depriving us of truth, justice, equality, even now after 400 plus years of servitude, slavery. We must remember that the deceiver actually has deceived us. The coming of God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever, is to make manifest this arch enemy's work against us and to acquaint us with the nature of the arch deceiver. That deceit is part of his very nature. He, Allah, or God, comes to give us the knowledge of the God of evil, who had freedom for the last 6,000 plus years to deceive not only you and me, but also the entire nations of the earth, the entire nations of the world, the entire nations of this planet Earth, right? This is the greatest salvation that God could bring to you and me, to know the source of our trouble and its cause. The power of the manifester is to remove this cause, which has affected the black nation for 6,000 years and beyond. It is worth the heaven and the earth to us when we agree on not trying to make them our friends, which by nature they cannot, even if they wanted to. Only a few have the belief of goodness. By nature, they are not good, but they can practice goodness. Our predicament and position makes us the victim of deceit of these great scientific deceivers, the white race. They put us to sleep as babies, and they knew the type of noise that will awaken the sleeping baby. The noise is that which God in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, Allah in the person of Master Fard Muhammad has made, or the teachings of Patna Bab Yanun has made. And he, the Most High, has missioned me to continue to make that noise until all of our people are fully awakened from the slumber of the arch deceiver of the nations of the earth. Surely not all are really working to keep us blind, deaf and dumb to the knowledge of the deceiver, but the few who would help us and the few who would help us endanger their lives in trying to help us. As you see, the Christian priests, certain Christian priests in Milwaukee who profess to be trying to help those who want to live next door and in the house of the children of our father slave master, is having trouble. Even this easily can be classified as deceitful work against true freedom, justice, equality for our people. This priest is having trouble amongst other open, vicious haters of you and me of this kind. This priest wants to help the poor black man here in America, and especially in Milwaukee, to accept, or elsewhere to accept, false friendship, to forever be at their mercy to rule spiritually, economically, and politically. He is not trying to teach the black men that they should not want to sell themselves back to the slave master for a morsel of pottage. The priest knows by the scripture in his Bible that the time is ripe for the total freedom of the 400-year-old slave of the white man to go to his own on this earth. The priest is wise to you that you should have a place to live wherever you want, regardless as the indigenous people of the planet, right? We would not have dared teach this openly before this day and time. The end of this world. The others are so evil and vicious to do us harm that great gangs of white people out in the streets will attack one poor black man going through the area in his car and will yet get and will yell, "Get the nigger." This is a coward's action of the white man in America ever since we have been here, going after the so-called Negro to do him harm. He always wants 100 whites to attack that one Negro. This shows cowardice and the savage instinct of the white race against black people. The black man can put a stop to such attackers of this evil force, but it is in the way of God. Allah God, it is not the way of the prediction as the priests know. The coming of Allah in search for the black lost members of their nation today is to make himself known so he can conquer our captors by using weapons against which they have no power against. He, the Most High, will bring attacks of divine judgment of their world without the use of contrived weapons. The weapons of war used by God is excuse me. The weapons of war used by God in the past history of the destruction of the enemies of God, such as Noah's people, Lot's people, and Moses' people, are an example of what he will do or use today. The weapons are the forces of nature against which we have no defense. America is under such divine attack now. in storms and rain, hail, earthquakes, fires. The latter is yet to take place. A terrific drought is on its way. Two against America. The book must be fulfilled. The Bible and Holy Quran both refer to all that I have said. This is the divine judgment to bring vicious America to her knees. America hates the people of God, and the Negroes too, not know that they are really the people of God. This is the great truth that you must come into the knowledge of, that you are a member of the family of God and and not a member of the family of the devil. But you follow the devil. Contrary to your own nature, the natural man, black, is of God himself. We have been deceived of righteousness, justice, and equality by the arch deceiver. We have been taken from the knowledge itself as being the true people of God, and that God is present seeking us to place us again into the orbit of the divine supreme being, where we can rotate in submission to the will of God as the entire universe is doing, except the white race. We cannot set up a better government for our people by using the corrupt politicians, the corrupt political activities of this people, the arch deceivers. All of their work was based on deceiving the nation, not to bring them into friendly brotherhood and prosperity for the black people, black men, women, and children. Even today, after 100 years of so-called freedom, he is still against you going free. This is your trouble today. You are deceived, and deceived by the enemy you think is a friend. But take note of what he offers you. He is offering you only temporary enjoyment and not a permanent enjoyment for your people. We want some earth and not a temporary room in the house of our enemy. Let the political and spiritual leaders unite on such a stand as getting some earth for the people, and not getting just a job and a chance to loll around, sleeping and allowing the enemy to protect our responsibilities for self. We must bear our own responsibility. This, the God of justice and truth, will force you to do before he will be defeated. His purpose and aim is to reunite us to our own. He will fight the arch deceiver with the forces of nature and with his own wisdom, which has no equal, to make you and the enemy bow to his will. This is the judgment of the world, and especially of the white man in America, who has been here for 400 years, living between the two oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, to do as he pleases. The slave is deprived of the freedom to do as he pleases, but to do as the slave master pleases. Our great misunderstanding of self and of others lie in the deceit of the arch deceivers of us. They will never teach you and me to do good for self, only under their own power and dictatorship. What we need is to unite, not demanding and marching all over the country to live near the white man in his home, but demand to separate a separate place for us in this country and help us with the means of civilization. as he had to get started, limiting the time to get started within the next 20 or 25 years. Many scientists think that it is too late for this demand because of the anger of God against America for her evil done to us. But the Most High has power over all things. The All has power over all things. And he does that which he wills to do. The great goddess does what she wills to do in a language our people can understand. Look, it is up to America, right? If she wants to help us, it would be a great good putting us on the way to self by any evil one or nation. The God of justice would grant them a reward for doing such, as no good act goes without its reward. They deceive the so-called Negro under temptation, filth, indecency, and a promise that they will be given jobs and new homes next door to them in the same territory where their very nature is against and which is without any future. It is temporary enjoyment. We want something permanent enjoyment on our planet that's naturally ours, we indigenous to. Give us a few of these states to live in to ourselves, which we have well earned with 400 years of free labor, like I went into regarding how capitalism was born from the labor of the free labor of the slaves, where we are no longer slaves. When he sees that his life and your life are at stake to try to accept the present plans filled with deceit to the Negro, both you and he will welcome an opportunity to agree on the kind of program. Unite with me, Black America, for your salvation in regards to the truth, right? As far as minimizing the spreading of evil that's far and wide, right? You know, may we stand for truth that will enable us to all be on the right side of the Most High's divine plan, which is the essence of this transmission to reach our hearts with. You know what I'm saying? So, for the sake of the bigger picture, you know what I'm saying, regarding this age of Aquarius, dealing with full disclosure and things of that particular nature, dealing with the gods on the mother plane, you know, the UFOs, Nibiru, and things of this particular type of nature. You know, we are indeed living in some times where it's about growth and positive behavior patterns through higher spiritual ideals. So may this conversation be helpful in terms of positive changes taking place through the inhabitants of the planet. Peace and love and positive energy activate constant elevation. Remember, like Padre Bab Yanun said, Nectar Aferdi Atumre, Dr. Malachi York, Asai Isa Al Hadi Al Mahdi, notified to us, no one wins the race in racism. Think about that. You know what I'm saying? All praise due to the all, and may we all be on the right page through positive corrections with a moral compass to be in tune with the divine sacred orders of the Most High, like the warrior angel Melchizedek, you know what I'm saying, who won the battle in the sky against the beast and his angels regarding the battle for the mind. Positive energy, activate constant elevation. Peace, love, light, blessings, and healing to us all. Much love.